Hello everyone, I hope you're terrific. As promised, I said I would make a video today about your final assessment. So here goes. I've taken some notes, so I'm just going to sort of make sure I cover everything, and as always, I'll post these notes up. So if you don't want to listen to my raving on, you can just read what I've written. So first thing is, I hope you're all fabulously well. I know it's a busy time of the semester for you all, so I'm sure you've all got your heads down. So what I want to do in this video is to really give you guidance for that final assessment. Now, there's really two things I want to say about that. This assessment is designed to be really realistic and similar to what you might be asked to do in practice. And if you think about it, it also draws together all of your learning in this subject. And hopefully after listening to this video, the connections will be clearer for you. They may not be totally clear at the moment, but I think this is a good example, this assessment, of how we're scaffolding learning. So building on what you've done earlier and then building it up to a final piece. So hopefully by the time I finish this, you'll see that. So essentially, you've been given a whole lot of information about Joe. The focus that is being taken with this assessment is on the need to build really good interprofessional working relationships for successful self-management. So you have been asked to organise some continuing professional development. So this is really about developing materials so the team that is working interprofessionally really understand the important points and the important strategies, the importance of self-management and continuing professional development overall. So you can structure this professional development in any way that you would like, i.e. the format's totally up to you. You might want to design a poster, some fact sheets, a blog, or you might be keen to do what I'm doing here, record a presentation. I'm just using Photo Booth I'm on a Mac, so it's really quite quick, and then I'll just export that and I stick it up on YouTube, which is quite quick to do. So the assessment is really straightforward. Like all of them, it's not complicated. You just have to think about it and unpick it a little bit. So you need to take the case study of Joe and you use that to illustrate the points that you are making through the materials that you developed. So for example, if you decided you wanted to develop a blog, you would go through and you would cover each of the points that you've been asked to from the perspective of self-management, but you would use Joe's case to illustrate those points. So what I mean by that is that if I'm teaching you and if I draw from my practice and I give you real examples from practice, students always say that their learning is strengthened by that. If I tell you a story about somebody I've worked with, then really the theory comes alive, and that's what we're asking you to do here. We're asking you to duplicate and replicate good teaching practice, so drawing on a real case to make your points. So it's important to ensure that you cover each of the points from the perspective of self-management. Don't focus on the medical aspects of stroke. Keep in mind the focus of the subject, i.e. self-management. So when we look at the first question, the impact of a stroke on a person, this is not about the physiological changes, but what are the impacts that would be the focus of self-management. Now this is where I want you to think about the scaffold you've already got and to build on that. So think about your case studies, especially the ones that you did with Jessie and Dylan and your self-management plans. So what we're really asking you here in a slightly different way is, what are the major issues that Joe is likely to face? This is how you draw on what you have learnt previously in this subject. You might not have realised, but this is a great example of scaffolded learning. What you are really being asked to do is think about the major issues for Joe like you have in your previous assessments. Remember that column that you filled out? What are the major issues for this person? That's exactly what you're being asked to do here. So the second thing that you're being asked to do is about the need for interprofessional practice in supporting self-management for people who have experienced a stroke. Again, you've done this in your previous assessment. This is really about what other health professionals are important to support Jo and how they should work together. Again, it is building on the scaffolding. Hang on, I'll just turn my email because it'll keep binging in. It's building on the scaffolding that you have and asking you to present the material in a slightly different way. So in answering this, think about entwining the theory of interprofessional practice with Jo's case study, using Jo's case and literature around interprofessional practice to support your point. So think about what you already know about Jo. And if you think about the need for interprofessional practice, remember that was a column that you had in Jessie's case study, was thinking about what health professionals maybe needed and what would be their role. So it's just asking it in a slightly different way. So the third thing you're being asked is how health professionals perceive self-management for people who have experienced stroke. You could draw on Jo's perceptions of deficiencies in her self-management to illustrate best practice. For example, some health professionals might perceive that they should just take over and direct Jo's care, where her case study is a good example of someone who is committed to maintaining her own health. This draws you back to the theory and evidence for self-management, and that's Ferrison and Duckett report. Remember, you looked at that early in the semester. What can you draw from that report and your reading as supporting evidence of the need for health professionals to work together? Also have a look at the other literature that exists around interprofessional working, some of the material that's been provided in the subject, and your wider reading to think about how you could answer that. The fourth area is the types of interventions that are important for people who have survived a stroke and the evidence for these interventions. Really important here to consider self-management interventions. What could be done to better support Jo? What interventions are appropriate? This is about self-management interventions. Subject, chronic condition self-management, that's the focus. Again, draw your thinking back to Dylan and Jessie, and this is the column about interventions put in a different way. Again, the trick here will be to use Jo's case and the broader literature to illustrate your points. Now, the most important bit is that you need to ensure that the material you prepare clearly demonstrates how the various health professional workers should work together to support Jo's self-management. Remember the brief? You're designing professional developed materials, so that's got to come through. All factual information should be fully referenced. That means in-text referencing and a full reference list. If you're recording, I'll just say something about that. So say if you're designing a post or a blog, it's fine just to put the reference list in a lower font right at the bottom, or however you want to do that, but we do need it referenced. And if you're recording your information like this video, please use references in your presentation. So I might say the point that I'm making here aligns with the work of Smith and colleagues in 2017. And then if you do that, if you want to record it, please submit a reference list. If it's in another format, like a poster or an information sheet or a blog or some other form, please use in-text referencing. Okay, so I hope this is clear, but please send through questions. It will be much clearer if lots of people ask questions, and I'm here to answer those. So send me through some questions on the discussion board. I know you're all busy, but you're very quiet. I'm thinking I'm just here by myself. I know that, you have got a lot on, but seriously, I'm here to help. So please, send a message through, stick it on the discussion board. Remember, no question is ever a silly one, because there'll be a whole swag of other students sitting there wanting an answer to the same question. So it's really exciting, isn't it? It's nearly the end of the year. The weather's improving, not here in Bendigo today. It's pouring rain, but overall things are good, and I hope you're all fabulous. So take care. I look forward to talking to you soon, and we're getting stuck into your marking for your next assessment, so we'll make sure that we have that back to you as quickly as we can. I think we've been pretty quick getting them back. So have a good evening, and I'll talk soon. Bye.